Elon Musk is calling it a woke virus. And you're right. He's right. I'm glad you brought that up because I told you we were going to talk about that later in the show. And Elon, I think that characterization is fair in that this wokeness is a virus because it's feeding upon itself in really, really strange, bizarre ways where, you get these crazy types somehow justifying things that should never, ever be justified. And feeling inclined to do so because reality sort of for them no longer exists. Elon cites, these were in some recent comments he made, by the way, this woke virus thing, cites some academic that is talking about how human beings should not populate the earth. Like we don't have a right to exist here. I mean, you just want to make yourself extinct. We get it, okay? But not the rest of us are like that. So at some point, in order to actually preserve civilization and to continue on, we have to value ourselves. We have to value our relationships, right, between a man and a woman. And we have to recognize who we are. I love what Camille Paglia, she's a noted academic. She's so left, she might as well be right, I think. Now, she's super left, and she's written a lot on sexuality. She's written a lot on androgyny. She'll tell you, these are her own words back in 2015 during a lecture, but she's making the point that this is the peak of civilization. When you start talking about all this crazy stuff, you kind of have reached the end, or jumped the shark, right? As they say from Happy Days.
Proof of it. But now I began all of my studies. My book Sexual Personae began as a dissertation at Yale graduate school on androgyny. I've always been fascinated, attracted, to the subject of androgyny, and that's what sexual personae is. I explored it in history, but the more I explored it, I realized that that historically, the movement toward androgyny occurs in late phases of culture. Okay, as a civilization is starting to unravel. Okay, and you can find it again and again and again through history in the Greek art. Okay, you can see it happening. All of a sudden, okay, there's a kind of there's the sculptures of handsome nude young men athletes that used to be very robust. Okay, in the archaic period, suddenly began to seem like wet noodles. Okay,
she was saying this in 2015. Remember,
and that the people who live in such periods, a late phase of culture, whether it's the Hellenistic era, whether it's the Roman Empire, whether it's the mauve decade of Oscar Wilde in the 1890s, whether it's Weimar Germany, people who live at such times, okay, feel that they're very sophisticated, they're very cosmopolitan, okay.
I can see that.
Heterosexuality, so what? Anything goes, and so on. All right, but from the perspective of historical distance, okay, you can see that it's a culture that no longer believes in itself, okay. And then what you invariably get are people who are convinced of the power of heroic masculinity, okay, on the edges, whether they're the Vandals and the Huns, okay, or whether they're the barbarians of ISIS. Okay.
You see she's saying that the pendulum shifts.
Right.
And the danger,
to bring in
we want to stay right here for a second. The danger is that it shifts too far in the other direction. But, for all of us in the here and now, we're kind of stuck in this end of civilization, end of culture period. And if people don't speak up and say something, then you run a lot of risks as the academic. Camille Paglia has pointed out. By the way, I think she's canceled now too, because even though she's so left, apparently she's not left enough for some of her students. And she kind of tells it like it is, as she should.